Hello and welcome back to The Fast and the Curious with me, Betty Glover.
And me, resident Formula One fan, Christian Hugill. Betty, hello.
Hello, Christian. Just me and you, no team principal Greg James today. And I say it's just me and you, but it's not actually.
That's a lie.
I was completely lying because we have got an excellent guest. She's only 21 years old. She's already made history as the first female driver to win a British F4 race, which is not half bad. She also happens to be leading the current F1 Academy season after winning both of the races in Miami. Abbi Pulling, welcome to The Fast and the Curious. Should we start there then? Won both those races in Miami. You didn't just do it once, you did it twice. Did you enjoy it?
Oh, yeah, I can't say I didn't enjoy it. Oh my god, like winning a race is cool. Doing it in Miami, it's like next level. The atmosphere was incredible. The fans, like I keep saying, F1 didn't overshadow us. Like F1 Academy had our own moment, and I think that's so cool.
That is exact. So I was in the paddock and...
Were you? Didn't know that. Didn't know you went to Miami. You never talk about it.
I was going to say, is this one that's...
Don't encourage it. Don't encourage it. Don't encourage it. There was a couple of moments where you sort of got the cut through into the F1 world, and one of them was when you got pole, and I was stood in the stadium watching the big screen, and when you beat Dorian by half a second, you could see everybody looking at the screen sort of going, and then again, as the race weekends went on, it properly, F1 Academy invaded. Everyone was talking about it. It feels like such a welcome addition to the race weekend, and it sort of feels like it's always been there, like F2 and F3. You guys must be feeling that.
Definitely, and I'd like to add to that as well. I was also looking at the screens on my in-lap going, oh my god.
It's good to know you were doing the same as me.
I looked at the screen and I was like, oh my god, that's
How are you looking at the screens and driving? I just can't get my head around that.
Because it's the in-lap, you're going slow. To be fair, though, in the race even, I was looking and I saw they were battling behind. I was like, oh, it's all right, I've got a gap. So.
Oh my god.
But adding to that, 1,000%, it's having its own moment, and I'm so proud to be part of that.
Well, we'll go into the other series you're racing in a bit, but we cover F1 Academy a lot on this podcast, and we did a bit of a start of the season review of it, and there was a lot of people saying, not just on this pod, but on all the sort of media around the F1 Academy world, Dorian Pan's going to walk away with it. It's going to be Dorian's World Championship. And immediately from race one, you have been right up there. And again, I mentioned that moment where you got pole and everyone all of a sudden went, oh, it feels to me looking from the outside in that you've surprised a few people. I'm guessing you've not surprised yourself. You must have always known. You weren't going into this championship going, yeah, well, second's the best I can get.
Yeah, no, I definitely knew I was capable of, winning races and being at the front. And I kind of had not the best year last year, so I fully expected, the kind of chat that you're going on about, and I was the underdog for sure. But I wanted to prove everyone wrong and show, I can be at the front, and I want to continue that form. It's just been a whirlwind. Like I say, everyone was saying, oh, Dorian's unbeatable, but I was like, no one's unbeatable. Even Max, he's not unbeatable. He gets beaten. So although he is very dominant, but no one's unbeatable. People make mistakes. So
talk to us about last year then. For those that don't know, why was it so difficult?
Just a few things out of my control. I got double pole at the start of the year, which is awesome. Like first season, first race, double pole, and then due to it's a floor cover, so it's nothing performance related. It's just to protect the floor from stone chip, just to save money. Unfortunately, that's not a regulatory part, so that got left on the car. Then I got disqualified, and the whole team got disqualified from qualifying. And then just a few other things throughout the season. I think there was a tyre pressure thing where we were such a small amount below the minimum tyre pressure legal limit, and then that again got me excluded. And it's all points that all add up, and it would have ultimately put me more in the title fight if it wasn't for them.
That first one felt like the equivalent of when you leave something on the car bonnet and drive off, or leave something on the top when you're loading up the car.
I've done that with my water bottle before.
That does not surprise me that you've done that, let's be honest.
Many a time.
Yeah.
Coffee, everything.
Heartbreaking.
I think I left my keychain. I took my keychain off, found it in my car, and I put it on there, and it's gone now. And I love that keychain.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's it look like? Maybe someone spotted it.
It's just it has a quote on it or something. And
All right,
It's
Fast
metal.
Furious Pod. If anyone sees a metal keychain with a quote on it, we're going to reunite you with that keychain. Yeah.
But that must be, it must be quite weird having all of those sort of things happening, and you know deep down you can be a lot better than what you're showing out there. Was that sort of like a difficult mindset? Was that a difficult place to be?
Yeah, and it was also, I started then like blaming myself for a lot of things. Although, like, I'm my own biggest critic for sure, and I definitely made my own mistakes last year. It's just when things are out of your control, it's not focusing on them, and it's putting them aside and being like, well, it
Nothing
happens.
I can do.
And I've gotten like much better at that. I think over that course of that year, I learned a lot. Took it into this year, and I think also a big thing is putting pressure on myself. So again, this year I've made a big thing of just having weightless shoulders, not putting pressure on myself, and it's like it seems to be working. So
Seems to be working really well.
It seems to be working really well. And again, it felt to me, like I mentioned, that moment, particularly in qualifying, where you didn't just get pole, you got pole by half a second, stood in the F1 paddock, that felt like a moment to me of realising, because obviously you were also running really well in Saudi, but that felt like a moment to me where everyone in the paddock went, oh, Abby's a real contender here.
I'm here to play.
Here to play. Did the Miami weekend as a whole, where obviously you got that pole, obviously you won the races, did that feel like a moment to you as well, of being like, yeah, I am really in this?
Yeah, I definitely think it's shown, that I'm here for the title fight. Although I keep saying everywhere, I'm not putting any expectation on myself, and I don't want to be looking at the championship. You do a little bit, but I'm trying to not look at the standings, not look at the gaps or anything. Like, I just want to do my best every time I get out in the car, and then that's all you can ask for, really, and just maximising every situation you're in. I think that's, if something does happen out of your control, it's just about maximising everything around it. So.
You remind me a little bit of Oscar Piastri, because we had Oscar's a regular on this podcast, and he was on for that last year, and obviously it went really well, and he was sort of saying the same as you there, like, I want to do well, but I want to, and I know I'm going well so far, but I don't want to put pressure on myself. How much of a difficult balance is that as a racing driver? Because you're going out to win. Every racing driver we have on this podcast says the same thing, but also, as you've just said, you might not win the world title and still have a brilliant season. So that must be a tricky balancing act in terms of putting that pressure on yourself.
Well, I think you've got to be realistic. Like, you literally, unless you are like Max Verstappen, you can't win everything.
Well, he has a good go, but yeah.
But if you're starting, further down the grid or for whatever reason, because of factors that are your fault or not, is it possible that you can win the race? Yeah, but is it realistic? I don't know. So you've just got to kind of, every situation you're in, I love Oscar. He's previously on the Alpine Academy, so I've trained with him a few times, and he's too nice to be a racing driver. I often
Such
say.
a nice
He's
man,
so
isn't he?
Such a nice person.
But yeah, it's a mindset thing, I think, and I think it's something that could be overlooked as for athletes as a whole, not just motorsport, but athletes in general overlook the mindset side of things.
Yeah.
I feel like within this sort of keeping your expectations sort of level and keeping level-headed, taking the pressure off yourself, you do have a layer of confidence where you think, I can go out there and win this. Where does that confidence come from, do you reckon?
I think you've got to be your own biggest backer, and you've got to, put yourself, tell yourself that you're capable of doing this, and you can win races and you can get fastest laps and be on pole by X amount, even though it was, you wouldn't expect it. But you've got to have that self-belief. I think every driver on the F1 grid will say that they're the best driver on the grid. It's just how us drivers work. I mean, it's very it's a weird, like, you've got to do it to a point where you're not coming across cocky. It's really hard to like not come across as big-headed or anything. And
it is tricky, but to stick up for racing drivers, I say this a lot, that the best ones I've interviewed actually do come across as a bit cocky for exactly the reason you've just said. They have to.
I think sports people do,
though,
don't
they have to believe they're the best. You can't go into that knowing. You can't sit on the F1 grid, for example, and go, yeah, but I'm not as good as Gasly.
Yeah, then you're already defeated.
Exactly.
You've already lost.
So that bit of, we use the word arrogance as a bad thing, but you need a bit of that. You need a bit of cockiness and a bit of arrogance. I just wonder as well, Betty, I'm going to mention that I was in Miami again. Let's not. But it is, for anyone who's listening and has ever been, it's a race weekend like no other. You know, you've a massive American sports stadium. You've got such a unique track where the walls are close. You've got fans everywhere. Was it difficult? And obviously, you guys have been put into this pressurized world this year where there are fans this year. You were racing behind closed doors a lot of the time last year. Was that difficult to keep your head? Because Miami feels bloody big. It feels like, wow, this is a thing. Was it difficult to keep cool?
I mean, definitely difficult to keep cool because it was like 30.
Was hot, yeah.
It was 30 odd degrees, blazing sun. But no, I think it's something that I'm very lucky that I'm used to the attention by this point.
Yeah.
Like with previous championships that I've raced in, the W Series, there was a lot of cameras and attention around that. And this is, kind of the same, but, on another level. So I think I manage that stuff quite well, and the audience, I kind of revel in it almost. Having, so many fans,
That's cool.
it kind of pushes me on even more. But it's just amazing. Like I never in a million years, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have thought I'd be in the position I'm in now. So just grateful for everything.
Has the F1 Academy really helped with that? And do you think the F1 Academy's helped you with your career so far, do you reckon?
But yeah, well, I mean, if I was to go back to 2021 when I was in British F4, I did half the season and then I ran out of funding and didn't manage to compete again. So I then went into W Series, all female championship, fully funded, and that kept my career going. And now F1 Academy has come along, and that's continued to keep my career going. With paired with Alpine and Road and Motorsport, I always take a step back and put things in perspective and say, if I was a guy, I probably would have been the end of the road for me. So I make sure to make the most of every opportunity I'm getting for those that aren't as lucky as me. That's a really big thing in my head.
We've got to talk about British F4. You made history, but Christian, she's competing in two different races.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people who listen to this podcast who are new to motorsport as well as new to Formula One and new to F1 Academy. I think most people listening to this will know what F1 Academy is. It's obviously this new race series designed to, as you've just been saying, put women's racing at the forefront of people's imagination, give people an opportunity, give people track time. How are you combining this with another series, and what is that other series?
Yeah, it's a super busy year that I've got, to be honest. Yeah, British F4, it's a mixed competition, so it's men and women racing. I raced in it previously, like I said, ran out of funding, and it's pairing quite nicely with F1 Academy because it's a similar car. They are actually, to the core, very, very different to drive, and we can go into that if you want to, but at the heart of it, they're both F4 spec cars, so they kind of pair with each other very nicely for me. The opportunity with Road Cars come about to compete in it, and I just couldn't say no. I've always said I just need seat time, and I'll be able to get the results, because testing has been something that I've never done much of. And lo and behold, I've started to do more testing and get more seat time, and I'm getting wins and fastest laps. So
that must be. Is it hard driving two different cars and having to sort of flip your brain to suit which car?
It is, especially with these championships, because it's I've just come from Miami to then Brands Hatch. You're going from 55-degree track temp to like 10-degree track temp.
All the glamour to
no, not even in that sense though. Just the temperature
Yeah.
alone, it makes the car handle so different. And then there's the tyres. They're both Pirelli, but they're both different. The brakes, they're a lot of the regulations.
Different cars feel very different.
Yeah, they're different. So jumping back and forth is hard, but also adaptability as a driver is the most important thing. Like when you get to Formula 3, there's very little testing, and you've got to go from FP1, where the track isn't rubbed in, to qualifying, where F1's done their session, the track's rubbed in, there's more grip, and you've got to be able to get on top of that straight away and, get the car on its limit. And I think that's something that is in my tool belt, going forward.
I noticed when you talked about British F4 and you said that it is mixed, so you're racing alongside men, etc. as well. You had a little smile on your face. Do you like that?
Yeah, I grew up my whole career and my childhood driving against guys. So the last 3 years, 2-3 years, I haven't been in mixed competition, and this is my second full year. I feel like people don't realise this, but it's my second full year of competing against guys in single seaters. It's been a while, and I've not done it very often other than in go-karting. So it's been nice. I want to prove again, that I can race against everyone in whoever
The best, I guess.
whatever. Yeah, exactly.
It's a nice best of both worlds you've got, because I remember covering in my old job when W Series first started, and there was actually some female racing drivers who said, well, this is a bad thing because we want women to be competing against men. And obviously W Series unfortunately didn't survive, and now we have F1 Academy, and again the same conversations cropped up last year. But actually I think what your story really shows you why I personally think F1 Academy is a good thing, because it has given you more seat time. It's given you more of a platform to attract sponsorship and to attract funding. As you said, you last time you were in British F4 ran out of funding, and now you've not only doing F1 Academy, but you've able to go back into other series, and the team at F1 Academy say all the time, we want our drivers to progress into other things. Well, you're already doing that alongside it, so I'm guessing it must feel like this has worked quite well for your career.
Yeah, well, I don't think I've ever actually said this before, but I was one of the people that, although I didn't publicly say it in my head, I had a similar opinion. I was like, I don't want to race just against girls. I want to race against everyone. But I'm kind of living, breathing proof that it's working. The system's working. I'm racing now against mixed competition. I've been, reintroduced to that. Got the opportunity to go back to it. So as well paired with F1 Academy. So it's, you can't knock it. It's working. It's got me racing again, like you say.
We need to talk to you about that winning moment in British F4, becoming the first woman to win it. What did it feel like?
It almost felt like a strange race, because I was in the lead and did the safety car start and went on for, I think it was about 11, 12 laps, and I looked in my mirrors and I was like, I'm pulling like quite a big gap.
Where is everybody?
Yeah, like I think I ended up pulling like a 5-second gap, and it was completely unexpected. I expected to have to, get my elbows out a bit more, fight for it. But yeah, getting, standing on top of the car and being able to celebrate that win, it was so special. I want to prove, like I say, I can race against whoever, and yeah, we did that.
I want to ask you a question which I think a lot of people listening might think is a cruel question, but I think you'll understand. We are now, May getting into June time. You've only had 2 races of the F1 Academy season this year, and I'm about to ask you about your future plans. And there'll be people thinking, hang on, we've only done 2 races, but it is this time of year, isn't it, where people immediately start talking about next season. And also, you're only allowed to do F1 Academy for 2 seasons, and this is season 2. So are you starting to think about what's next? Are you starting to think about the 2025 season? Are you starting to think about your career long term? How much are you thinking about the future at the moment?
To be honest, it's a similar thing with what I'm saying about the championship. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I'm not going to think too far ahead. I'm just going to keep kind of taking things round by round. And, if I keep doing what I'm doing, the people around me, luckily I've got such a great support system around me. They'll hopefully, do the work, make the connections, and, put me, where I can potentially be. I think, of course, I want to move up into different machinery. I want to move into F3 spec machinery, whether that's GB3, FIF3, FRECA. There's so many different.
These are all different racing categories, by the way.
Yeah, different categories, all kind of similar speeds. But who knows at this point? It's early doors for sure.
The world's your oyster. The world is your oyster, Abbi.
Fingers crossed.
We got a listener question in. This is from Luna. I'm sure you've been asked this quite a few times. She says, do you think we will get a female driver in Formula One again, ever? Does it feel like things are genuinely moving in the right direction?
Of course things are moving in the right direction. It's, there's the female participation is going up so much. And at the end of the day, the reason why we haven't had a female in Formula One for a while is it's all been a numbers game. There's just not been many of us. There's 1% of us are licence holders, and that, there's 20 people that get the opportunity to race in F1 every year, and it's hard enough for the guys. So when there's not many of us females, it makes it that much harder. Literally just a maths equation. Definitely in the future, whether it's 10 years time, 5 years time, 50 years time, there's going to be another female in F1.
But you are 21, am I right in saying? We've spoken about when I raced karts when I was young. I spent 5 years racing karts, raced against 2 women in that time. And now people who were my age when they're karting are not only seeing more women get involved in things like karting, but they're looking on the telly at the weekend and seeing a women's racing series. So to answer Luna's question, that will have an effect. As Abbi says, it's now women's racing, a bit like what we're seeing in football, where when I went to school, girls weren't allowed to play football.
I couldn't
You
play
weren't allowed
football
to play
at school.
You
football.
couldn't play football?
No.
How mad is that? We didn't
We're-
have a women's
we're
football team.
Betty's a bit
Really?
younger than me, but we speak about this a lot because we're big football fans as well.
So is Abby.
Yeah,
Can
I
I
was
just
at the
say
Spurs game
she's a
last
Tottenham
night.
fan.
Tottenham fan, yeah.
Struggling Tottenham fan.
Yeah.
But when we went to school, the girls weren't allowed to play football.
Oh,
It's
that's-
insane.
I didn't actually even know that.
Yeah,
I played football outside of school, but we didn't have a women's team at school when I was there,
unbelievable.
which is
So again, now we have football being played in schools, and again, young girls can see the success of the Lionesses and things like that, and see how much bigger the WSL is. Your point of it's a numbers game, so I'm convinced it will happen, and also. Scientifically, as Abbi will tell you, there was no reason why the female body couldn't cope with the physical demands of a Formula One car. There just is no reason at all. So I'm as convinced as Abbi is that it's when rather than if, and F1 Academy is helping that.
this might be a really, really stupid question, and if it is, Jimmy, cut it
Most
out.
of your questions
If it is.
most of your questions that start with this might be a really stupid
No.
question turn out to be really good questions. By the way,
Have you ever driven a Formula One car?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and what did it feel like?
Incredible. It's like it's really strange because you think it's like the braking, like people often say about the braking or the acceleration, but it's just the lateral cornering is just, especially like coming from low downforce cars that I've been driving.
just explain a little bit what you mean by lateral cornering.
Yeah, so lateral cornering, just the G forces that you pull whilst turning a corner, like you're going around a corner at like over 100, 200 miles an hour, flat out, and it's like a 90-degree corner. It just sticks. It's
It just
like
doesn't move.
It's incredible.
Really?
And yeah,
God.
yeah. And the power steering is also so weird. Like I got in it and I was like, oh, it's like so light.
So was it almost better in a lot of senses? Like almost easier in a way?
Oh, it's so easy. Yeah, it's literally like driving your road car. Even easier than that. It feels like a feather. Like I feel like I
you
could drive with a
mean the
finger.
steering?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
steering.
Because the other bits of it will feel
Oh.
the opposite to a road car. Those G forces you mentioned.
Yeah, no, the G forces that you put are quite a significant amount more. And in the car that I drove, we didn't actually have a molded seat, so it was kind of lots of cushioning. And
God.
turning a corner, you like shift a bit in the turbo.
Rattling
You're
around
like,
the seat.
you're like, this doesn't feel right. You don't have any like, what is it? Confidence in what's going on behind you, because that's your biggest tool is your bum in your seat and being planted. And there was none of that. It was lots of body roll.
Really? God, that's so interesting, isn't it?
It's fascinating.
Just the differences.
Quick one before we let you go. Spain next, Barcelona for the F1 Academy. What are your hopes for that weekend?
God, I mean, Barcelona was one that we struggled at in pre-season testing. We've changed the setup a bit since then, me and the team. And I think going off of Miami, we showed, we've got really good kind of tyre management. That's what we struggled with in the test. But our tyre management now has been great, setting fast laps even at the end of the race. Although Barcelona is very different track surface, very different. It is a racetrack. It's not a street
The series
circuit.
use it, of course, to lay down rubber. Yeah.
Exactly, and there's going to be, I think, F2 and F3 there. So it's going to be a tough one, but hopefully just kind of keep at the top of the table, of course, is the aim. Try and take away a few trophies, but I think to replicate Miami is going to be quite hard.
Well, you say keep top of the table. Wow, we have the F1 Academy Championship leader in our studio.
This is pretty cool,
which is
isn't
incredibly
it?
exciting. We've something that we have to ask you to do. Betty, looks like
Yeah.
you're getting up to do the honours.
I'm getting up. Are you ready, Abby?
What's going on?
Can you sign our helmet?
Of course.
We'd love you to sign our helmet. Now, we'll preempt the questions people get. Bernie Collins got very nervous about where to sign it.
Oh, okay.
But you can
I think
choose
I'm
any way you
gonna-
like. What have we got on there so far?
we've got Ruth Buskin.
Ruth Buskin,
Oh, I
Bernie
love Ruth.
Collins, Chloe Grant, our listener Ellie's on the back.
There's our listener.
I think I'm going to go bold and just go like right on the front.
Do it. This is what we want, because everyone else has been like, oh, I'm terrified.
Yeah, they've gone like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to go right slap bang.
Good.
Prime
This is why she's a
That's why she's in
race
the championship
winner.
at the moment. Yeah, absolutely. And while you're signing, lovely signature, by the way. Final question, broad picture. What's the dream, Abby? Where do you want to go?
I think anyone in my position. I'll give this back to you.
Love the little, by
I
the way,
did
there's a
a
little
little smiley
hashtag number
face.
9 as well, which I love.
It's my race number.
You were saying your dream, where you're looking to go?
My dream, I think any driver in my position in a feeder series to Formula One is going to say Formula One. Obviously, being with the BWT Alpine F1 team as well, it's a good in. They're a great bunch, and they're really kind of supporting me and pushing me on. Although I'm not keeping my options like strictly tunnel vision to it. There's so many different aspects of motorsport. There's Formula E. I very much have my eyes on that, and WEC. What else is there? There's so many things. Yeah, there's so many things. I've even said that I'd love to try rallycross before, like just because it's such a different discipline. Like I
You
just
could
like to try.
speak to Leah. She's done a bit. Yeah.
No, I have actually literally. I've said to her once before. I was like, Leah, like we need to do like
Take
some
me
rally
out,
together.
yes.
Yeah,
Oh, that
because
would be
like
cool.
I'd love to do it. It's just such a different discipline to single seaters, as she will know. Like single seaters, it's so you've got to be so precise in everything that you do. And I'm not saying it's not the same in rally, but you can get a bit more fun with it. You
slide
get a
on,
bit,
yeah.
It's sliding in single seaters is absolutely terrible.
It's not a good thing.
It's not good for your tyres. So yeah, I'd love to give it a go.
So you're open to quite a lot then.
Yeah, just as long as I'm racing. I think because I've had so many times where I've almost stopped and it's almost been over. I'm like, as long as I'm still behind a wheel every year, the next year, I'm happy.
Abby, thanks so much for coming in.
Of course.
And congratulations on a fantastic start to the season. You should be so proud of what you're achieving. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And now you're part of the Fast and Curious family. Please, let's catch up with you again, because
Of
it's been
course,
brilliant
of
having you on.
Also, when you win the F1 Academy, you'll be back on
You
the
don't, please
podcast.
don't jinx it.
Don't say that. Yeah. Abby, look forward to having you back on soon. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
in.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
thanks,
having me.
Abby.